1 week to go. One excruciating, painful week to wait until Zack Snyder's Justice League. Yes, welcome back to Big Mouth and welcome to yet another edition of the DCEU Daily, and you, of course, are very welcome. We've got a lot to talk about. Rumours about Wonder Woman 3 coming from Grace Randolph and Zack Snyder directing it. Do you remember when I did that video? We'll discuss that in a minute. Yes, Grace Randolph was watching Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut. Sounds like she was having a good time. I am jealous. But this is the kick in the balls for Zack's haters that we've been looking for, because as I keep on saying on these videos, it's turning around with the vengeance for the haters. So, Zack Snyder posts this beautiful Darkseid poster, which is this. It is awesome, right? Beautiful, like all the marketing and all the posters. Wow! Looks pretty much like Darkseid to me. Although there's different versions where he's a little bit more overweight, but this is awesome. This is Zack's Darkseid, and that's okay, and that's fine. Everything doesn't have to be copied and pasted. Right. So here's the clanger for the haters. This is brilliant. This is from Jeremy Kirby, Jack Kirby's grandson. Thank you, @Zack Snyder. Thank you, @Zack Snyder. Wow, that's pretty awesome, right? Wow, wow, wow. Now, somewhere, I can't find it, Zack says, I'm proud to represent Darkseid. So it proves that Zack does hover over Twitter as well as Vero. And when you're saying something to him, he notices. So just because he doesn't reply, can't reply, you know, for many different reasons, he's still reading and appreciating what you're saying. But that's massive. You know, Jeremy Kirby, Jack Kirby's grandson. Jack Kirby, of course, if you're not aware, is the creator of Darkseid and the New Gods. To be honest, I don't know much about the New Gods, so I'm not going to pretend I know so much about the New Gods and it's amazing. No. I only know what I've read, basically, and what you guys, kind of the New Gods fans, have told me. So thank you, and keep on telling me stuff. We all can be educated more, even though I'm a massive DC fan, and I've got the gob and the confidence to do these videos. It doesn't mean I know everything. I'm just a fan at the end of the day, but yeah, Jeremy Kirby, grandson of Jack Kirby. That's amazing, and I thank Jeremy for thanking Zack, because I know what that would have meant to Zack. So, as I say, things are turning around like the vengeance. Now, at the end of the video, I'm going to talk to you about my experience with suicide and depression. Now, I've discussed my kind of experience with it before. I'm going to go into a bit of detail. So if you want to stick around at the end of the video for that, you can. If you don't want to, I totally understand. It might be too boring for you. It's not about DC. It's not about geekgasms, so you may not be interested. But if you are, stick around at the end of the video. So 1 week to go. 1 week to go till Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut. And I'm like a dog on heat. Woof, woof. Jesus Christ. We've been through a lot, you and I, right? All of us. Arguments, disagreements, agreements, blocks, muting, unmuting, unblocks, blocks again. Accusations, love, hatred, everything. I've had my share of that. Jesus, I think I'm actually blocked by half the bloody community, which is a shame. Come on, should we do an unblocking frenzy for the 18th? Come on, everyone. If you're watching my video and you have me blocked, come on. Don't hold a grudge. I don't. We disagreed about something. Let's get over it. Davey Pino, we disagreed about animated Snyderverse. I'm sorry if I upset you. Just unblock me. Come on. It's okay. You don't have to be as good looking and as hunky as me and be as successful with the ladies as me. It's okay. It's okay. Just unblock me. Anyway, so I want us all to be friends because, after all, families do argue. And I see us as one big, weird family. Anyway, it's so exciting. Anyway, so Grace Randolph is a bit like Piers Morgan, if you know who Piers is. She's a bit like Marmite. Do you know what Marmite is? But some people love her, some people hate her. I don't hate her. I'm sometimes, like Piers, triggered by what she says, and sometimes I love what she says. When she kind of talks with my ideology, of course. When you're talking on these videos, it goes the same with me. If I say something that someone agrees with, oh, you're the best thing ever, the next day the same person will go, I hate you, I've just unsubscribed from you. Yesterday I got 2 unsubscribes. I think unsubscribed because of something I was talking about, feminism and activism. So two people got upset, unfollowed me on Twitter, I think, and also unfollowed me on YouTube. That happens. Those people may come back later on when they realise they're being silly, because we can't all just say things that people agree with. Anyway, so I have no hate for Grace, even though she's got me blocked on Twitter, if someone can help me out there. But she was watching Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut. Now, I can't read the tweet, but what I can say is, she said, I'm watching you-know-what, wink. I'm hearing really, really good things, including Zack and something about Wonder Woman 3. So, this is interesting, right? 873 subscribers I've got at the moment, right? I've got a Twitter following of, 1,050 something, or 1,048, or 1,248. I have a very, very low kind of follow and subscription count. In terms of social media, I'm not very famous, even though I'm a Cypriot TV personality and developing the first English-speaking dramas here on Cypriot TV. It doesn't make me famous. It doesn't make me a celebrity. I can't literally leave here without someone saying hello to me, which I love. And before the pandemic, when I was going night clubbing, lots of people wanted to buy me drinks. But if I leave Cyprus, obviously, I'm not famous. I'm not famous in America, in the UK. So that's the situation. So my social media isn't that great, unfortunately. But isn't it interesting how we judge people on their social media, kind of followers and subs? I did a video about Wonder Woman 3 and Zack Snyder, didn't I? I told you the other day that WB actually do want to restore the Snyderverse, but they just don't want the Snyderverse to be the canon to the central universe of the DC Extended Universe. Guess what happened the other day? Zack explained, remember that interview where he said they see Justice League as canon and they don't want Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut to be canon. And they wouldn't let him do it unless he agreed for it not to be canon, which he doesn't give a shit about the central universe anyway. That's why he's always explained that Man of Steel and BVS and the Snyder Cut are canon to his universe, which he doesn't care about because, as he says, it gives him this freedom. And so I've told you about this stuff. So what happens, Grace Randolph, who's probably got I don't know, million subs. God knows how much she's got, how many people she's got following her on Twitter as well. A very popular lady. She's built up a platform. Even though I don't always agree with her and she has been blocked, I respect her achievements. But it's interesting that I'm the one that's breaking this stuff first. So despite my followers, I may be connected after all, but I don't whop it out on the table here and tell you how big it is. I don't do that. I'm planning on doing a TikTok video later on talking about why I wouldn't want to be friends with a famous person because they're famous. And if I was famous, proper famous, and even though I'm not proper famous, I do question why people want to talk to me and be friends with me. But even as a famous person, if everyone wanted to be my friend, I'd question that, right? I'm talking about Bradley Cooper kind of famous. I'd be saying, you know what? I don't want you to be my friend because I'm famous. I want you to be my friend because you love me and you love me as a friend. That kind of thing. And so I do find it very interesting how nobody believes a word I say, but like 78 to 85% of what I say comes true. It's interesting. I was mouthing off. From the moment Zack Snyder's Justice League was greenlit, remember, I was mouthing off about an HBO Max universe. I wasn't the only one, right? But maybe I knew a bit more than those people, right? And maybe I wasn't just coming out with theories and conjecture, right? It's interesting, isn't it? So, you're saying to me, validate your Wonder Woman 3 kind of video from a few weeks ago now that Grace Randolph's saying the same thing. Now, Grace Randolph talks a lot of shit, and a lot of what she says is interestingly true. Now, some of what she says doesn't come true, but I will clarify the kind of flashpoint thing with Wonder Woman 84, what she predicted. I think that was true, and they went back and changed it. I think she got it right on the head. They went back and changed it out of fear after they saw people's reaction. The D-pics in the diamond, I think she was right about that. They went back and changed it after they saw people's reaction. All part of Margot Robbie's and Kathy Yan's anti-male agenda, right? So I think Grace says a lot of things that are bang on. Unfortunately for Grace, a lot of the things she tells us are things we don't want to hear. Now, this time, this we do want to hear. So, how is it plausible that Zack Snyder, after everything that's gone on with him, with Toby Emmerich, Jeff Johns, everyone, all of a sudden could be directing Wonder Woman 3? And of course, Toby, a few months back, straight after the release of Wonder Woman 84, confirmed that Patty would be writing and directing Wonder Woman 3. So how is this plausible? Well, there's a very interesting situation going on here, because Wonder Woman 84 was not received well. Yeah, there was a few shills with their reactions saying, just the film we need at the right time. But none of those people said, this is a good film, did they? Do you remember? They said, this is the uplifting film we need at this time after being locked away in lockdown because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But none of those people actually said it was a good movie. We all said, reacting to it, right? In the final third was uplifting and powerful, and it was great. But as a film, it wasn't a very good film. In fact, it was mostly a very boring film that didn't resonate with the audiences. So Patty Jenkins complained with Wonder Woman 2017. She didn't have enough freedom, obviously pointing towards Zack as well, but then denied that. But that's not the truth. I think they've got a good relationship. They just don't agree with how Wonder Woman should be done in live action. And that's fine. You don't have to agree with your friends. That's cool. But she had an opportunity with Wonder Woman 84 to make a movie. I don't think it's and I don't think it's a trash fire. It's certainly not the way I want to see my Wonder Woman movies, but I enjoyed elements of it and it was okay. That's my opinion of it. I actually bought it on Prime Video the other day. It's a DC film. I'm always going to collect them anyway. But I think it's okay. It's an okay middling film. It is not Birds of Prey. I don't have the disdain for that film as I have for Birds of Prey. But when you see elements in the mouth of the old men looking at the aerobic kind of people bending over, things like that, it's typical of these people's agendas and activism. And the film just isn't very good. And it has plot holes. It has loopholes. It's just no good. This film has more holes in it than Delilah's bucket. So Patty was given enough rope to hang herself. And as far as Wonder Woman 84 is concerned, she did. There can be no justification about Wonder Woman 84. There can be no excuses. She had all the freedom to do what she wanted. It was before the pandemic. She made that film. She even went back to redo some stuff, I assume, partly to undo the Flashpoint stuff that Warner Brothers, they wanted to change the dceu within that movie, within the decision. What was going to happen is Diana was going to make a decision to keep Steve Trevor alive, which would have changed, which would have had a ripple through the universe. That's what Grace meant about Flashpoint. Didn't happen. So, because I think Grace exposed them. I think that's what happened. Once Grace exposed them, they got the negative reaction. They went back to change it. That's my opinion. So Grace is notoriously right about these things. Even if you go back and see videos of me slaughtering Grace, it doesn't matter. I'm like you lot. I'm reactive to everything. When someone talks against someone I like, and I do like Patty, I really do. I think she's a lovely woman. I really do. And I love the way she speaks, and she certainly loves Wonder Woman. And anyone who loves these DC characters, I'll love back, and I'll appreciate and I'll defend them to my very end. And so I don't have any hatred for Patty Jenkins, and I want to be clear about this. But she was given the rope, she hung herself, and no one cut the rope for her. They tried to. They said, Patty, this mouse thing. No Patty. And she insisted that stayed in. Now, I don't know why they didn't like the Themyscira scene. I think they wanted her to change the Themyscira scene into something a bit more epic. She didn't want to do that. And so I don't mind the Themyscira scene because I think it kind of leads in kind of the narrative the film wants to go along. So that's fine, why you can't cheat and why you've got to earn things properly. I'm fine with that. I think it's a great scene. I think young Lily Aspel she's got a great future and she's great as young Diana. Hopefully we see her in the Amazonian movie as well. But she failed with Wonder Woman 2. You cannot make a sequel to such a great movie, one of the best superhero films ever made, and then lighten it up and just tell an uplifting message. That's not what second movies should do. The second movie is when everything goes to shit, like Batman vs. Superman, like The Dark Knight, like The Empire Strikes Back. They're not my rules. That's how it works. It works, right? Why would I? It's like basically Wonder Woman 84 has got the underwhelming kind of Last Jedi vibes. The Last Jedi isn't a bad movie, it's just an underwhelming movie and makes no sense to what was done in The Force Awakens, right? And it's the same with Wonder Woman 84. She messed it up. She doesn't seem to really have a defined kind of vision of a trilogy. And so how can they get away with this, putting Zack Snyder instead of her? I know what you lot are thinking. Patty's not going to step away from this. Well, we know that Patty's doing Star Wars Rogue Squadron, right? This is what they're going to do. They're going to say that she thought she could do both movies, but she couldn't. And she's always wanted to do Star Wars, so she asked Zack as a favour if he can take over the film, and he said yes. This is exactly what they did with Justice League. Zack got his good friend Joss to finish the movie, even though Joss and Zack had never met before, right? So they're doing the same thing again, but this time, for the Restore the Snyderverse community, it's a happy ending. This would be Warner Brothers Pictures and Warner Media and AT&T and saying, you, my son, are back in. Calm down, fans, calm down. Keep your bites, keep your barks and bites at bay. Don't release the hounds. We're bringing your man back in. I think there's a real possibility that Grace is right. Because this film, as I keep on telling you, is going to blow up more than you or I ever imagined. And it's massive. So no one would be more happier than me for Zack Snyder to tell his Wonder Woman 3 story and to direct it and to co-write it. Maybe Patty get a co-writing credit or something. Jeff Johns will have nothing to do with it. Obviously, even though they did write that whiteboard together, didn't they? Which is interesting. So I do think they worked well together at a point. I don't think Zack hates him. I think Zack understands his passion for DC, and they see DC in a different way. I think that's the problem. And I think more than Jeff being toxic, he believes, in terms of creatively, he sees Zack as the Antichrist because he sees DC totally different. And that's okay. But I think what we're seeing here is the rebirth of Zack Snyder and DC. And this is huge. This is massive. Because let me tell you something. Studios and analysts know how well or how badly a film's going to do before it's even released. They knew Last Action Hero starring Arnold Schwarzenegger was going to be a disaster. Analysts were telling us that before the film was even released. They know. They knew that Justice League was going to be a disaster. That's why they started lying, saying it was going to hit about 60, 70 million domestic weekend, right? But it didn't. It was bad, right? They know before it's going to happen. They know this film is going to hit big. There's already bloggers watching this film reacting. BD, Brandon Davis, basically Mr. MCU Shield himself, hashtagged after watching Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut, restore the Snyderverse. Yes, my friends, this fucking thing is going to end really well for us. A lot of bitter people out there, but who gives a shit? We won. We saw a director, a visionary director, who was bullied out the industry because he happened to be different. After he lost his daughter. And this is why I really want to tell you about my experience with suicide and depression at the end of this video. Because this is so huge. This is part of the reason why I joined you guys and girls and everyone else in the fight. Not just to restore the Snyderverse, but to release the Snyder Cut. Because of my experiences. Because I could easily be dead now. That's the truth. I attempted suicide. And right now, I want to tell you that story. And so, it was many years ago. I think I was in my 20s. I had worked in the co-op for about three and a half years. Co-op was the first main job I'd ever had. The co-op, the cooperative wholesale society who owned a supermarket right next door to where I lived. I was living with my parents. I had friends there. I was having a good time there. And then this really ambitious career woman and her assistant took over. They wanted to prove, basically, these were a couple of feminists. These were, they really wanted to prove themselves. And they genuinely didn't like men, and they really wanted to destroy any male who worked in the company. Anyway, this woman had decided that I should my pay should be 75% from a special company. She was trying to prove that I couldn't read or write. This was absolutely not true. As you can see, I can read. I might be a little bit dyslexic, as you can see when I'm reading the articles on here, but I can read, right? And I can write. So they wanted another company to pay my wages. So I refused that offer and I said no. And then she tried to get me made redundant. So that was a possibility. But that didn't happen till afterwards. But basically, the pressure she was putting on me, because she really wanted to force me out of the company, it come to a head, I think. And one night I had decided to take my mum's prescription pills. Now, I'll be clear to you, I didn't know what these pills were and I didn't know what they were going to do. But I did pour a little glass of whiskey and I did take them. And I did have to have my stomach pumped. I didn't die clearly. That's when I knew I didn't want to die, after that happened. But it's kind of interesting to me then and now, thinking about it and what I went through, that what people can do to us, how people can hurt us. This woman was just doing her job. She just thought she was doing her job. But out of her own hatred for men, she'd come at me so hard, she nearly killed me. She was taken away from the company. She was fired, clearly, because I came forward and explained what she was doing to me. She wanted me out of the company. A young lad had been at the co-op for 4 years. Sometimes if they asked me just like that to work 3 or 4 hours extra, 8 in the morning to 8 at night, I'd do it. I'd do anything for them. I loved them, they loved me, especially like the older women who worked there, loved me, looked after me, protected me. I started there as a 16-year-old boy. So she nearly destroyed me through her own hatred. This is what hatred does. And mental health and suicide and depression is connected to people who have hatred towards you. You see, mental illness isn't something that is in there. It's not cancer. It's put in there by society. You see, some people can handle life and can handle what society throws at them, and some people can't. Now I can. I've trained myself. I do have medication which I'm supposed to take. I can't take it if I'm going on social media because it takes away who I am. So I don't always take it. But I do meditate. I have kind of researched meditation, and I do meditate a lot to control my depression and my mental health problems, my mental illness. That's how I cope. But I just wanted to tell you that little story, not only because if you're suffering, to speak to someone before it comes to a situation like it did with me, but also I want you to understand that what we say affects people. What we say can kill people. And no matter how angry we get, we must be careful. Now, I know social media isn't easy to navigate. I find it hard to navigate. Someone says something on my timeline that triggers me. Without thinking, I say something. I've actually now, since the meditation, I go to write something and then I stop myself. Sometimes what I do is I subtweet so the person doesn't know I'm talking about them. I find that actually very therapeutic as well. But you've seen me on Twitter. I can go off on one. There's no question. I'm only human. No meditation can stop you reacting and being human. But because of what happened to me, I am a lot more mindful of how I talk to people. I'm still not perfect. This is true. You can see my tweets sometimes, especially with what's said about Zach. So one of the reasons this is so important to me is because of what happened to Autumn. That really hit me hard. And I think it should hit anyone hard. But so it's so special because we fought for Zach, we fought for Autumn, her memory. You see, Autumn didn't die in vain. And even though Zach and Deb and the family lost her and can never see her again, never hug her again, her legacy is this film. And every one of you who's done events to raise money for suicide prevention, anyone who's donated, anyone who's raised awareness, that means that Autumn didn't die in vain. This is a fantastic, I don't want to call it a story, but it is a fantastic life story, if you like, of Zack Snyder, a very kind, passionate, talented artist, visionary director, where something very devastating happened to him. And a lot of the public, us, saw it, and we stood with him. And he realised he could get his film released and he could get back to restoring the Snyderverse, something that is visionary and artistic and does matter. Because if we don't restore the Snyderverse, what have we got? Let's be honest. What have we got? A bunch of Disney MCU movies, animated films being made into live action. Things that you watch once and never again. That's the beauty of people like Zack Snyder and Christopher Nolan and Christopher McQuarrie and other people. We've only got a few visionary directors out there, right? There's very few of them. So my advice to Hollywood is look after them. Put them in your arms, protect them, wrap them around cotton wool, because your industry is nearly dead. You are in an industry now, my friends, that all it wants to do is cast politically, tell politically correct stories, and not really entertain people. Entertainment is the last thing on your mind. Your industry is dying from your own insanity. So when you have someone visionary like Zack Snyder, allow him to do his thing. Zack Snyder is not just a visionary artist. He can represent minorities at the same time, as he does. So Zack's the full package. And to think that he might be, I think Wonder Woman 3 is the greatest thing that he could get right now, because that says that the central company realizes that people believe in this man, and that this film, Zack Snyder's Justice League, a film they didn't want to put out, a film they called a mess behind closed doors, actually is far from that. People are seeing it now. People will see it next week. It's very exciting. So I hope you took something from what I told you about my experiences with mental illness and suicide, because I think it's important. I also want you to remember that I understand that we're all only human and we get angry with people sometimes. This kind of thing in a world where you can be anything, always be kind. No one can always be kind. I don't expect people to be kind 24/7. I understand we all have flaws. I get that. I love the human condition. I love meeting new people. I think it's great. Seeing the different personalities, interacting with people, having a laugh and a joke with people, sometimes arguing as long as it's constructive. So I understand that sometimes people are going to argue with each other. But I think what was done to me in that supermarket was it had intent and it was full of hatred. Like we see now on social media, we see women purposely bashing on men. And if you're a man, it's hard to take. And you think, where does that hatred come from? Clearly, they've been treated badly by other men, but not this man, not you. So it's not really fair, is it? So there's a lot of situations going on in the world where we can all jump on the hate wagon. And I beg you not to do that, because what we do and how we react to people matters. And we don't want to see anyone else's child ending their lives because of something dumb we said on social media or, God forbid, in the real world. This is why Zack Snyder's Justice League and the restoration of the Snyderverse is a very beautiful thing. And I'm proud to have stood with you all. A week ago, we had the brilliant trailers yesterday, didn't we? We had the Darkseid and the Steppenwolf stuff yesterday, which, brilliant. And I must admit, my favourite part, I love Steppy, I love Steppenwolf, don't get me wrong. But when he mentions Darkseid, then it goes on to Darkseid and he says, I've turned 100,000 worlds to dust. I'm thinking, fucking hell, mate, if I see you in real life, I ain't suiting up. I'm running away. I don't care if I'm Superman, I'm Cyborg. I'm hiding in a hole till it's all over. Of course, it can't be over, can it? You've got to stand up. You've got to be brave. But, yeah, what a villain. What a couple of villains we've got in this film. I mean, if you're going to do a 4-hour film, you're going to need a couple of villains. And we've got Lex Luthor as well in this film. We've got Deathstroke. We've got the Joker in this film. Not only is this a kind of a group of superheroes in this film, we've actually got a group of supervillains. And, of course, now we know that Zack wanted to do an Injustice League movie. Now, this is interesting as well. Literally, Jeff Johns and co. wanted to rip off what Zack Snyder wanted to do with Justice League 2, although I think the Injustice stuff was partly Jeff Snyder. Am I right? I could be wrong about that. But yeah, I think that these are all Zack's ideas, and they put that in the post-credit scene with Deathstroke and Lex. And of course, yesterday I read the interview with Joe Manganiello talking about what he wanted to do, saying there was about 4 ideas for him, for Deathstroke movies. And he said he thinks that people will be very excited for Zack's universe to continue. What does that mean? Does it mean we're seeing the restoration of the Snyderverse? Listen, I'm feeling really, really positive right now. I just can't see a world where we're not going to succeed here. But we can't take anything for granted. You must do your part, as I should. Just watch the film as much as possible, talk about it on social media as much as possible, be as positive as possible. There will be a lot of pitfalls where people are trying to lure you into being toxic so they can label us as toxic fans. Be careful out there. We've got our film. They have got no advantage over us. There's no advantage into going in deeply at people now. We are nearly there. And once the Snyderverse is restored, the Snyderverse is restored. We live in different times as well. Because obviously Wonder Woman 3 would be a theatrical release. I think America are doing really well now with the pandemic and the vaccine since Biden came in. So I think it would definitely, you wouldn't see that film maybe for 2 or 3, maybe 4 years anyway. So yeah, definitely a cinematic movie. So that's the kind of film where Zack Snyder's Justice League could be his next movie. He may not be able to do Justice League 2 and Justice League 3 till after that. But the advantage of Zack doing Wonder Woman 3, he can use that as an arc to lead Wonder Woman and maybe the other DC characters, because there were hints from Patty Jenkins that there could be some Justice League crossovers in Wonder Woman 3 because it was going to be set in the real, in the modern world. So that's interesting. And Zack did say, in terms of sequels for Justice League, that wouldn't happen straight away, even if the Snyderverse was restored. So I think Wonder Woman 3 is, in fact, a good place to jump off from. So, listen, I'm incredibly excited. And I know that you are. And I've noticed some of you from America are still on Twitter right now. What time is it now? Where are we now? Let's have a look. It's 11 a.m. here in Cyprus. So it's 9 a.m. in the UK. And some of you Americans are still tweeting Restore the Snyderverse. I tell you what, you're amazing. You are amazing. You're an amazing fandom. You've all inspired me to keep these videos going, even though the views are not great. This is not a successful channel, but I do enjoy bringing the videos to you because as someone who's somewhat involved in the industry in a very small scale, this is a very interesting situation. Could this be the turnaround we all think it's going to be? I think it already is from some of the responses from Access Media, who are kind of throwing hints about while they're watching it. It's interesting. But I think that Brandon Davis and people like that were always supporters. Grace Randolph is a supporter of Zack Snyder. What's going to be interesting here is people like John Campion. Now, someone joked with Film Gob earlier today that, oh, look, John Campion's gone quiet about the Snyder Cut. You really did a job with him, Film Gob, ha, ha, ha. Don't underestimate people's silence. And don't forget, John Campion does actually like Man of Steel, but he doesn't like BVS. And I think that's not a kind of weird view to have. There's a lot of people who love Man of Steel and just didn't like BVS. They just couldn't believe what they were seeing. Because Man of Steel is very different to BVS. There's nothing wrong with that, and I love BVS and Man of Steel. But for some people, Man of Steel was an opportunity to do a real kind of Man of Steel sequel and talk about the codex and things like that. And people were frustrated that didn't happen. But Batman vs. Superman is a great sequel to Man of Steel, and I love it. So don't think that John Campion is not going to speak his truth. He will. What he says, I don't know. Is this going to be a win of such proportions that the people who hated BVS, who hated on Zack, could turn around and say, wow, this is one hell of a movie. This is one hell of an achievement. Well, I can't predict to you if people are going to be positive who haven't been positive in the past. I can tell you that people who have seen it thus far are very, very pleased with it and can't believe what they saw. and don't understand why the company didn't like what they saw. But they were under a lot of pressure, you see. They were under pressure to produce babyish, childish MCU movies where everyone laughs, jokes, smiles, wears bright colours, and nobody really worries about watching the film again. And they thought they could turn Zack's movie into that. Their first big mistake, of course, which we've obviously discussed so many times. And so from their mistake and their wrongdoings, Zack has risen again. The DCEU Snyderverse has risen again. But if we look at the DCEU as a whole and this multiverse strategy, it's interesting. And of course, we've got the situation with Falcon and the Winter Soldier releasing 2 days later on Disney Plus after Zack Snyder's Justice League, or a day later, I can't remember. That's interesting. That's fascinating to me. Is anyone actually going to be interested? Is Falcon and the Winter Soldier actually a project that's going to take anything away from Zack Snyder's Justice League? Or will people just binge both? Let's not forget, Zack's movie is 4 hours. And, they're going to have at least 8 episodes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I don't know how many episodes they're having, but they're longer episodes. And they're made more like movies as well. So MCU fans are obviously going to want to watch that. But who's going to be talking about what? Can Zack Snyder's Justice League be so prolific that nobody else wants to talk about anything else? Or could it be that Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut share the airwaves, share the social media waves, and it's fine. Normally, one thing overpowers the other in comic book live action. We know that. That's this kind of era is you either like something or you don't, and you'd rather talk about something else. So this is very interesting. But what's more interesting to me, if we are restoring the Snyderverse and if Zack is doing Wonder Woman 3, but we're still doing the central DC universe with the multiverse strategy, with Flashpoint, if we're doing all these different things, and maybe even a sequel to Joker or another villain, because the next film after Joker could actually be Joe Manganiello's Deathstroke movie. That would be a great jumping off point, wouldn't it? Interesting. Joe Manganiello also spoke about how much he loved Ben Affleck's Batman script and devastated that he moved away from that. He was forced off that project, as Zack was forced off the Snyderverse. We know that. We are all still hoping that Ben can do that over on HBO Max. We can only hope. And there's some insane rumours coming from the Batman set. I don't know what's true and what's not true. This is Hollywood. I don't personally believe that Robert Pattinson's a nightmare, because Robert Pattinson has made a lot of films and we haven't heard anything like this before. So the rumour mill is going, you know what the fandom menace are like. They do talk a lot of shit. It's best to take everything with a pinch of salt. But the Batman is an exciting project. James Gunn's The Suicide Squad is an exciting project. What I'm trying to say and not doing very well with articulating it is that we have a really good situation here over at Warner Brothers, and I'll tell you why. Because you've got the central universe, you've got these multiverses that are going to break open and people can cross over. Meanwhile, you've got the Snyderverse over on HBO Max. What that says, what the mainstream audience are going to see is that there's different things for them to get involved with in terms of DC TV shows, DC movies, the DCEU, the Snyderverse. This is becoming a very interesting, attractive world for DC and for Warner Media. So I think the Snyderverse is being restored. I think the studio do want to restore the Snyderverse. There could be figures within the company that don't and could be behind the leaks. I don't know. I don't know that much. My ear isn't that far to the ground. I'm sure there's people who could tell you more about that. Not me. And I don't think it's that important because they're not going to win anyway. So when you look at the MCU has been dominating movie theatres since Iron Man, the first Iron Man. And since the first Avengers movie, it's been everything that people who love films talk about. Could this be the way now? The very director who started all of this off, that was hated and there was divisions and it was polarising, could the turnaround now with Zack Snyder's Justice League make the DC live-action universe a more interesting proposition? A more interesting proposition than the MCU? I think so, even though I'm biased. I think we are heading to a very special place. Because in terms of the Snyder Cut, Zack Snyder's Justice League, I've never seen hype for a film like this. And don't forget, we're in a pandemic. You know, people are going through shit. So it's an amazing time to be a DC fan, to be a Zack Snyder DC fan. And I'm going to leave it at there. If I'm going to leave it there. If there's anyone actually still watching this video, I've really enjoyed doing this video. I've really enjoyed being open and honest with you about my life and my excitement for Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut. Now, this time next week, now this is an interesting one before I go. I'm in Cyprus. I'm in Europe. So what time will Zack Snyder's Justice League release? I think it's 1 minute past midnight in the US. And so 1 minute past midnight in the US. And of course, different territories in the US have got different time zones as well. So I would imagine if that's at midnight would be maybe when I wake up, maybe 8 a.m. in the morning or something, or a bit later. So that's interesting. So we're going to have to try and work that out. I'm not sure if anyone's got times. And by the way, I had a little rant about maybe not being able to get the Snyder Cut on pay-per-view. I checked it, actually. There is a Snyder Cut kind of site via Twitter. I forgot what it's called. Restore the Snyderverse. So they actually have got every single country that's going to be able to do it on pay-per-view and how they're able to see it. And thankfully, Prime in Cyprus will allow pay-per-view for Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut. So I think that goes for all over the world. So I'm really happy about that because I don't have access to Now TV or Sky Cinema anymore, which would have been the most awesome way of watching it. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the show. Please comment down below. Please like, share and subscribe. And I'll see you again tomorrow with more DCEU Daily. See you again soon.